Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Car Wash Magazine Live. I am your host, as always, Matt DeWolf, Editor-in-Chief of Car Wash Magazine. This week, we've got one of our special edition programs for you. This is going to be talent management, friends, and we're going to be talking all about onboarding and effective training, and giving you guys some tips and some tricks and some ways that you might be able to change your thinking a little bit around this activity. And why that's important. So why does onboarding matter? Well, it's pretty straightforward right now, friends. With the way that hiring is going, with the challenges that we're facing in the labor market, if we are under the gun in terms of onboarding and we're not doing that process right, we're going to lose a lot more people than we're going to keep. And that just means that cycle of having to go through and churn and burn people until we get somebody that can figure it out enough to stay with us is going to be pretty brutal. And it's going to cost us a lot of money. We're going to waste a lot of time, and we're going to have pretty high blood pressure by the end of that process. So we're going to talk today about how you can kind of dial that in, how you can maybe just be real comfortable with the fact that it's going to move a little fast, but that's going to be okay, and you're going to have a great process that we're going to continue to evolve. But to do that, you're not going to listen to me. We're going to bring in John Sproul from Camel Express, and we're going to bring in Rob Hetherington from Benny's Car Wash. Camel Express has got 3 locations right now, 3 immediate locations on the way, but if you listen to John tell it, John's going to tell you they've got a limited car washes coming. And then we've got Rob from Benny's. Benny's has got 9 locations right now. There's 5 oil bays. They're building a couple more. They've got some 3 B-Quicks, which is their C-store operations. So these folks know how to build teams. They know how to do it right, and they know how to be creative when they're thinking. So let's go ahead and bring them in onto the program here. Just a moment here. We'll just get them up here for you. And without further ado, friends, we're going to get Rob Hetherington. There he is. There's Rob. And there's John. Hey, guys, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, this is going to be fun. So we've been talking a lot about hiring and how do you get talent. And now we're going to talk about, what do you do with them once they get them on board? So let's maybe start with kind of what's the most important thing to think about as you're bringing people on and you're onboarding folks in this process. And Rob, maybe you can kick us off here and just kind of share your thoughts.
Okay, so for us, one of the things we really want to set the standard of expectation for the company, for the new employee coming on board. We want the ground rules, develop a relationship. They need to see a little more of what the vision of the company is and how their part fits into it. There's some learning involved and some safety stuff and those kinds of things, but this includes their expectation from us as well. So I guess most of all is that they're part of, let them know that they're part of a winning team and that we're going to support them the same degree that they support us. And so that way we all at least start off on the same page.
Yeah. If you start from the same page, at least you know you're reading the same book, right?
That's hopeful.
Yeah, right. Yeah, let's hope. Yeah, John, what about you? What do you think is most important in this onboarding process?
I think 2 main things. One is we always say know what your end goal is. So if we don't know what we're trying to accomplish at the very end of this process, past it to training, all that kind of stuff, it's hard to start off on the right foot. And I always tell our guys, all our managers, that it's like a first date. You show up for a first date on a blind date. You don't show up in your sweatshirt, your hoodie that you've been wearing for the past 6 months. What you want to do is you put your best foot forward. You're there to impress. Not only we are choosing them, but they're choosing us. And again, you maybe spent just maybe less than an hour with this person when you're deciding to hire them. And we want to reassure them that they're making the right choice. And just, you know, like what Rob's saying, set the standard for what we're expecting as their training starts.
Yeah, and one of the big things about that process, right, is you have to invest some time, right? Like you can't just say, all right, sweet, we've got 2 new people coming on, come in this room, fill out this paperwork, go like figure it out, have fun. You gotta spend that time with it, and I think a big component of that you all both do comes around culture. So let's go there next a little bit of how do you, John, you were talking a little bit about kind of honestly like showing that culture from the get-go, and that you care, and that you're there, and you're gonna show up to show out, or whatever that phrase is.
Yeah.
But we're gonna butcher it all day anyway. John, can you just talk through how you all kind of get culture going and carry that through that onboarding process, kind of from the beginning?
Yeah, a big thing is pay is important, and that's one of and I think it starts on the hiring process, is asking those questions, so they know that, like, before they've even started onboarding, we've asked them, what's your biggest personal accomplishment? What do you care about outside of work? We know pay is important, but like, what do you care about besides that? And like, we know that after pay, for most of our employees, the number 2 most important thing is free food. So we make sure to show them where the refrigerator is, where it's fully stocked snack cabinet is, because that's important. And I think just like showing that we can have fun on our one of the first things that they see on our training, we have an online training platform.
Yep.
And they get to see they see all our corporate staff and part of our leadership team and their bios and stuff. But we have a whole like 2-page bio on our mascot, Clyde the camel, and how he likes to share water, and that's how he got interested in car washing, and he was on like any other camels, and it's ridiculous. Our brand director put it together, and it's fun, and it shows humor, and it right off the get-go, like that first day, they're like, oh, like this company's different, and we want them to see that.
Yeah, I mean, talk about being unique. I don't know that there are many washes in this industry that put a bio of a camel in their onboarding materials. So, I mean, hey, it's working. It's working.
Yeah.
Rob, what about you? Talk a little bit about how you all kind of take that culture through the onboarding process, and how you kind of get people to realize what they're getting into from the beginning.
So for us, one of the things we want people to understand is that we're more than a car wash. We want them to understand the rich history of Benny's. You know, we've been here for 70 years, major player in the industry. And we show them videos of Mr. Ben talking of the history of the washes, from pictures from back on Florida Street, the very first washes. So they need to understand they're part of a company, but it's a rich history company. And the culture started 70 years ago. And we've just built upon that every year. So we do a lot of like 360-degree evaluations at the end of each day, making sure that they understand what's not the task of it, but the essence of what we want to learn and what they want to accomplish. And then we go through our orientation process and, you know, make sure that they understand all that stuff. But the biggest thing that we have is what we call our break room orientation, which is our secondary orientation. And so, you know, we spend a lot of money on doing this formal one, and then they go on break and they get this nice informal orientation in the break room. And I'm pretty proud that most of the informal orientations that we hear about that come back to us are real positive, and people wanting to help each other out and building that team and that family feel. And that's really where you've made the culture where you want it, when your staff is helping create that with you. So we spend a lot of time on that.
Yeah. So, okay. So, when you talk about break room orientation, are you just talking about just peer-to-peer kind of learning and what's kind of the organic components?
Yeah. So, you know, when you send a guy on break and he goes in the break room, there's 3 other people in the break room, they're talking.
Yep.
Hey, it's your first day. You know, I know they said this, but let me tell you, it really is. And so it's good because it's more of instead of a negative, it's a very positive thing. And they're helping each other out. And hey, I saw you struggle on this. Let me show you another way that I've learned how to do this. Or if you want to do this, look at this way to get this done, or ways to grow in the company, or other areas they can work into.
Yeah, I think that's super important, because and it speaks to the fact that they're having those interactions speaks to the fact that your company culture is working, right? Because that's what you guys want. You want that kind of community vibe, and you want everybody to feel that and to like support each other and lift each other up. What I think is really interesting that both of you said is that you tell people about the company, right? You let them learn about the company so they can kind of understand the why, which I think is really important. Like people join things that they feel like they can be part of, and when you give them the why, that's an important thing, especially for millennials and on down. They want to know why. Like, why am I doing this? Why does it work this way? Why is this a great place to work? So I think that's really important. I think the other thing that we have to be careful of, though, is not to spend so much time in orientation on telling them about the company, right? Like, it's okay. Like, if you have a great story to tell, let that story speak. But don't spend 8 hours like going through the bullet by bullet history of the organization, right? Like, tell the story, get to the why, and then move on, because otherwise you're going to bore people to tears. You're going to love your company. You love why it started and how it started and all those details. Bringing a new employee on, it's going to be too much. They'll get that, honestly, through that break from culture. They'll pick that up and they'll get that vibe. All right, that's my soapbox. I'm going to get off of it now. And well, nothing drives me more crazy than like 8 hours of like company history on day one. And the guy's like, people are in there going, oh my God, what did I get up to here? Like, I didn't sign up for this. But let's move into, okay, so we've got our culture kind of figured out. We're bringing them on. We've got them kind of like in tune with how our company works, how we want to kind of work together. Now we got to train them a little bit. So obviously online training is big. Car washing is obviously a very tactical and touchable training process as well. Can you guys talk a little bit about some of the online tools you might be using? And Rob, don't jump into VR on me yet. I want to come back to that specifically. I want to talk right now about some of the online platforms and tools that you might be using and how that's helping. And let's start with John, if you can kick us off on that one.
Yeah, we've been doing fully online for about a year now, and night and day difference. I can't even remember, like, we used to do paper and totally understand like how many reams of paper we'd go through. And it's the thing that's important. And again, it goes into the culture is what we want that someone from this location interacts with someone from this location. They have a shared, like, oh yeah, like everything's run. I mean, you're going to have some things that are different, but things are run very similar, and online training really helps. So our main platform we use is Trainual, which is great. We build it from the ground up. And I mean, we love it that all our employees can have it on their phone. It's an app. It also, like, we can drop videos on there very quickly. They can see when it's awesome when our owner and one of our owners and our director of operations, Tyler, like, he comes to the site and they already know who Tyler is because they have his bio or maybe a video from him and know his history. Like, that's just something that helps build the culture. And then we also use something called Jolt, which is great for like list management, but also like that helps us. I can log in and see where a new employee is on their training, and it just, the consistency and the fact that, like, maybe a situation happens and we can talk and we can drop and push it out to everybody and track to see who's read it, who hasn't. If somebody, like, oh, this person, like, we had a knowledge check question and this person is struggling on it. Like they missed a couple questions, and next time I'm at one of the sites, I'll pull them aside. Hey, do you have an understanding about this? Or do I need to go through this again? Or do you have a question or something like that? That's the advantages of online training really, really start to show, and it makes it easier to replicate your culture, to just, I mean, everything's going to be a little difficult. It just makes it one less thing I have to worry about in everything that's going on now. So
yeah, and no more visits to the filing cabinet, right?
Oh gosh.
I mean, come on, who actually went? No, nobody went there. It got filed and it got shredded whenever you guys ordered the shred truck. Hey Rob, can you talk a little bit about your all's approach on the online side and what you've been doing. And, you know, shameless plug, I know that you all are lead users as well, which is ICA's new platform.
Yeah, so we use the lead program, and basically it's build consistency in the way that we train. And that's a key thing that John said, was that consistency in training is very important no matter where you're at or what you're doing, because you have to have people moving site to site once in a while to help out or do other things. It gives us an opportunity to measure where each person is. Not to mention, you can see their answers, and there's a lot of open-ended questions. So it's not A, B, or C. So you can kind of see how they're thinking and where they're kind of head with their decisions. And that opens up a whole new level of communication and training with each of those people as well. And then you can just track how that goes on each person. You know, we have 335 employees right now. I think that was our last count. And it's so much easier than calling each manager saying, hey, have you trained everyone? And they're going, oh, yeah, we did that. You can see it, and you can track that, and you can see what's going on. So it's measurable now. And that's a big impact for us.
Yeah. I think Carl Howard from Autobell would say that, you know, what gets measured gets done. Right. So, yeah. I mean, that's his thing. I can't not talk about this. Okay. So Rob, like you guys have virtual reality training. Like,
yes.
What in the absolute heck? Like what are you doing with that? Tell us.
Well, so I went to Disney, and I played this game there that was all virtual reality. I'm like, this is so much fun. So I'm like, how do I get people to want to learn to train? So we developed virtual reality training. Believe me, it was very off the cuff, and we brought a company in to do it all. But it looks great now. And you can put a set of goggles on a person, have them go through and see how the position is done and what's happening without them even being there. They can be in a classroom, and they can see each of the sites. They can see how to change oil and an oil change, the basement. They can see how to guide on a car. We can do safety stuff. I've got a next round that we're going to shoot with this. Now that I've done it a little bit, I'm like, okay, we can make this better. So eventually I want to put them in a warehouse with the gloves on, and they can interact and wash cars. And that's where I want to go eventually.
See, now, that's cool. I mean,
yeah.
If y'all are watching this, it may take a little convincing to get folks on board with that concept, but you know, I would love a day when we're all walking around with virtual reality sets, just learning how to wash cars. That's kind of amazing. Now, they're all sitting down, probably, right? Like,
yeah, we learned that one real quick. Yeah. Sit down, because they tended to walk around and run into things.
Yeah. Virtual reality is not reality. It's kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's super cool, and I love the approach, and I love this concept of taking something outside of industry and just something you see in everyday life and bringing that back and applying it. You both hit on something very important on the online training side, which is consistency and trackability, and that comes into play in what we're going to talk about next. We're going to talk about employee maps. So if you all are tuning in right now, just catching this program, we are talking onboarding and training with Rob Hetherington from Benny's Car Wash down in Louisiana, and John Sproul from Camel Express down in Nashville. So they're dropping some knowledge on us. We just got done talking about virtual reality training happening in the car wash. So if you guys want to check that out, maybe we'll get some goggles or something down at the car wash show November 15th or 17th in Nashville. We'll check it out. I was going to share a video for you all, but it doesn't really translate in flat 2 dimensions. So you gotta have the experience. All right, so let's before we go there, because I'm talking about VR so much, we did get a question on the feed. JJ Stanford, I see you, buddy. Rob, can you share the name of the company that you all leveraged to kind of help you with that VR?
Oh, that was Bubba in North Carolina.
And we can get it. We can get it after.
I'll get it for you. Yeah. I can't think of it, but I'll get it for you.
Yeah, we'll post that back. If you're watching, JJ, we'll post it back in the comments on the Facebook feed here, so that you've got that information. John, I think you want that information too, so we'll make sure you have it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on now to employee roadmaps. So this is a big thing, and this is a really important piece of training and onboarding and the whole 9 yards in terms of letting people see that they have a path. So. Where do we want to start? Do I want John to start, or I want John to start? John, can you give us Camel's roadmap, and we'll actually even we'll show an example roadmap, and you can kind of walk us through that if that works for you.
Yeah, and you can see it's over my shoulder, and it's one of the things it's changed like so many times since we first unveiled it, and I think it's really important, like not only for us, what I said in the beginning, not only for us to know what our goal is, where we're trying to end. It's really important for the employee, because if they don't know what the next step is, then it's hard for them. It's hard for them to have the purpose. They want to know, like, especially when we all are struggling with trying to break the stereotype that car washing has had for so many decades of being a place where, like, my two least favorite phrases are, I can always get a job at a car wash, or like, I'll just work at a car wash till I get a real job. And like, the roadmap is a wonderful way for people to see that car washing is different, and like, it's not what the public has been led to believe, especially with how much it's growing and expanding. So we usually very oftentimes show them in the interview process, on our second interviews, because we want them to show, like, again, what I was saying before, putting a good foot forward and showing them that, like, hey, here's your process. And they're asking about us all the time. And sometimes, like, you can tell that an employee just got off their break, because you'll just get a bunch of messages. Oh, hey, I saw this. What does this mean? Or what I can get offered on the next step? And can you, like, and I was like, oh, you just got off your break, didn't you? You've been, because it's in our break room. I'm in our, like, our training office. It's everywhere possible that we can have it. So, you can see it on interviews. You can see it. They're going to be seeing it during their breaks. We just expanded it to be able to go beyond. Used to stop at site manager, and we have specific positions in our leadership positions. So it's just, they want to know specifics, what's offered to them, but also, like, what's the next step.
Yeah, the next step piece. And John, can you, Justin Salisbury wants to know, how often do you revisit that roadmap with team members and make that like an intentional conversation where you're kind of going back through it with folks?
It is, especially when I think this year alone, we probably updated it 4 or 5 times.
Yep.
So again, we push it out new on our unlimited, or like on our online training. And then when we do reviews, which is every 4 months, we'll ask questions. Because the reviews are, half of it is us asking or giving them feedback, and the other half is asking for feedback from them. And that's one of them is like, what's your next step? What's a professional goal? Like, how can we help you with that? Whether it's you want to make it to the next step in this process. So it happens on a quite regular basis, especially with as much growth as we're going. It's changing a lot, which is a good thing. It means we're pivoting, and we had to change it because all our pricing was outdated from 3 months ago. So
yeah, well, your break room poster expense line keeps going up. It's doing the wrong thing.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
Rob, we're gonna back into this one into your roadmap a little bit, but I want you to answer the same question that Justin had. How often are you all visiting or revisiting that roadmap with team members?
So for us, every time that they do the 360 evals, so they're learning a new job or a new position, that's kind of when we're asking those same exact questions of, where are you at and where do you want to go? And are you getting the support you need to get to where you want to be? I try not to do that specifically too much, because it's in their face every day. It's in their break room. It's where they can see it. So there are certain people that they're just happy being where they are, and I don't want them to feel like they have to move up. But if you look at our roadmap, it is very specific of what has to happen, the skills you need to develop, and how to get them on your own to move to the next level. And if you want a pay raise, that's how you do it. And it's very simple.
Friends, I want to showcase the roadmap. Here's the roadmap. It's Benny's. You'll notice it's very similar to Camel's in terms of it's a literal roadmap. It's got a very visual feel to it, which I think is really important so that it can be really quickly digested by folks. But Rob, do you want to just kind of give me the quick walkthrough, and I'll show an up close view of it, and then we can probably post these to the feed after too.
Absolutely.
All right, so start me from the bottom. I come on, I'm a car wash attendant.
All right, so now I don't have it in front of me, but you're a car wash attendant. It's $12 an hour. It talks about the benefits that we have, the PTO time, paid time off, full medical benefits, dental, vision, and all the other benefits that come with that position. And then how long they have to be in that position to move to the next one. So then the next position that they'd want to get into is trainer for a key holder.
Yep.
And so the raise goes to $13.50. There's some lead programs they have to do. And then there's some other training that they have to do with a manager, as far as just, it's more of an interview talking process. And then they go to the next position, which is the key holder. That's, I believe, $14 or $14.50. There's some lead programs they have to do there, and whatnot. Now, to that point, you're not in management. You're a key holder. You can open and close the facility, stuff like that. The next step, the MIT, our manager in training, that's when you go to the $15 an hour. That's where we start putting some money into the people. They go through our Dale Carnegie courses. They're signed up for the online Dale Carnegies. They go the in-person. There's a lot more lead programs and other stuff they have to learn, as well as some maintenance items. That's when they start to work more with the admin people, stuff like that. And they're required to be in that position. I believe it's 2 years, somewhere around 2 years. And then they go to ops manager. That's when they start getting a bonus program. At that point, they double their PTO. There's other benefits that go with that. And then they go into GM or site manager positions, and then they make percentage of profits, and they start going that direction. And one of the biggest things I wanted people to understand when they started working for us, because we have a lot of LSU and college students, is that once you get your degree, there's still a possibility of working here and making a great living and making a good life. So we have had some people that have gone through the college and gotten their degree and then come back and said, look, this is better than what I was going into. This is great.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, it's like John was saying earlier, like, this is a real profession. It's a real career. And the more that we can have things like these roadmaps to be very transparent about that, the better our industry is going to be in the long run. All right. So now, okay, so we have these roadmaps, and John, you alluded to this a little bit, that you all have been updating your roadmaps and changing it. I want to talk about process a little bit, and how important is that? And then two, how important is it that it changes? So let's go back to John. John, can you talk a little bit about why process matters when it comes to onboarding and training? These are loaded questions, friends.
Yeah. It's really important, because if we don't have the processes documented, then that means that they can do whatever they want. I mean, like, a common thing you hear is silence is approval. So if you don't have anything, it means that they can do whatever they want to do. And then that's when you start, the sites look different. Well, this manager treats me this way or whatever. And, but at the same time, if you only ever go what's written, because it doesn't matter how hard you try, there's going to be things that you can't write every single thing down. If you do, you'll never talk to anybody. And so you want to be able to teach your managers to be able to think on their feet. There's going to be unique situations, all those kind of things. But I think being able to document those processes. We go through, the nice thing is, our online tracks, like our online program, which we use as Trainual, tracks when things were last changed, when they were edited, by who. And then we were December, I think, of this year, we're going to sit down with our leadership and management team, and we're going to go through and basically pick apart everything, and just make sure, okay, hey, like, I know it's been in this for a while. Let's just not be complacent. Have things changed? Are things a little different? And then the nice thing is that, so every other Monday we meet in person with our site managers and our leadership team. And a question that we often ask our site managers is, what's a policy? If you could get rid of or change one policy or procedure, what would it be? And so and we ask it on a regular basis, because sometimes maybe the person forgot about it, or another person was talking a lot the week before. And it's great. There's a lot of things that have come up and we're like, oh yeah, like my understanding of what the policy was is not translating through our words or video. And that's really, or like we're hearing that, like, oh yes, we think it's great, but all our employees hate this policy. Right. We need to maybe change it.
Well, or like you're saying, like it doesn't, how you thought it was being communicated is not the message that's being received on the other end. Yeah, for sure. So question from Tyler. Tyler Slaughter, we see you, my friend. How often are you auditing the training for each employee as far as their completion percentages go? So how often are you looking at that and kind of tracking that progress?
So what I was saying is every other week we meet in person, but those off weeks we meet online. So every Monday we go through and actually, like, it's great when we can show, like, so we'll pull up one site, but the other managers get to see that. There's a lot of incentive, because then they're like, oh, my employees are farther in the process than this other site's employees. Like, it's sort of like a little bit of a competition.
Yeah. I mean,
but we do that every week.
Yeah.
And then the managers actually on their own started this, where they'll pull up their whiteboard. They'll have several whiteboards all over the place, but in their break room, and they'll write down the name of the employee and the percentage on the whiteboard. And it just says, once you've completed it and you're up to date, like, wipe your name off the board. So
I love that. We have to incent the behaviors we want to see. And that's a knowledge bomb for you guys. Hey, Rob, can you talk a little bit about your all's approach? I mean, you guys are very explicit even in showing revision numbers in your stuff. Can you talk about the importance of process and the importance of being willing to evolve that?
So I think it's important to have a process for everything you do in order to build consistency. And but I don't believe that anyone should be so set in their ways that they never look outside to see how they could do things better. One of the things that really set Benny's apart from the beginning was its innovation, and we don't want to lose that innovation. So at the end of each year, we redo our entire policy manual, and we put on there revision 7, 8, 9, 12, whatever you're at. And that way people understand that, we are static about each year doing this stuff, because you don't want to change so often that no matter what you're doing, you're constantly retraining everybody and you're creating that frustration. So you want to get enough in there where if you do make a change, it's not change for the sake of change, but change for the sake of benefit. And, we try to put a work group together, let them figure it out, work through the problems, and then they can, present it to everyone, and everybody has to go and say, hey, yes, this is a positive move. It's finding that balance between being too rigid and too flexible. And that's the tough part.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to remember. Don't change just because you feel like it needs to change. Change it because something's broken, right? Like, change it because you can make it better. All right, last thing, and then I'm going to let you all get back to the business of washing cars. But I always like to ask, what's one thing I can do now to be better tomorrow? So one thing today, I can be better tomorrow. And let's have John. You get to tackle this one first.
Thanks.
One thing I can do today to be better tomorrow in the onboarding and training space.
I think if you don't have anything documented, having it documented. I think a lot of times people they look at the whole process and like, oh man, this is so much. There's so much to do. But I would say, like what I said in the very beginning, the most important thing is know where your end goal is. So like write it down, whatever, like, no, like this is what we want to do. This is our goal. This is what we want them to experience or whatever. And then go back and then figure out all the steps of how to get to that end goal of this is what I want to accomplish when onboarding a new employee. Okay. Once you get that started, then like, okay, then we'll go back and we'll figure out this is how we want to do this thing or how to do this. Like, that's good. It's just, if you don't know what you're trying to accomplish, your end goal, then it's really hard to figure out the steps.
Yeah, you're just running in circles, right? Chasing nothing. Rob, how about you? What's one thing that I can do now or today that's going to make me in a better spot tomorrow for onboarding and training?
So my suggestion would be put together a group of your newest employees, add in about 3 veteran employees, and then ask them all what we could do better. And they will give you the answers. Just be prepared for them. You may not like what you're hearing, but you need to hear it.
Yeah, it may not feel good,
Right.
but it may be very important stuff. Right. Well, before I let you guys go, we had one more question pop up. Last question of the day. This is very tactical, so hopefully this is an easy one for you guys. Lori is asking if something changes at the lower level. So in this online training, right, you change a process down there. How do you make sure that individuals who have already done that module or done that piece of training kind of acknowledge that there was a change and like retake that piece, right? So like, let's say that you're, I mean, not that this really happens often, but like your loading process changes. Okay, well, how do you make sure everybody gets the new process?
Well, for us with the lead program, you can go back and just reassign it.
Okay.
So then you can see who has to redo it. It's
gotcha.
Very simple.
Gotcha. So just wholesale, you just reassign that module.
Yep.
You change it, reassign it. What about you, John?
Yeah, the same thing where
Okay.
we can re-sign it and I can choose who or what, or and then they have to recomplete it.
Okay.
But if we do a bigger item, we still do that. But then we also we tackle that in our monthly staff meeting,
Okay.
which we have training that's every month after we close. So if it's a bigger item, like if we were going to be redoing our loading training, we would reassign it, but then also in person, because virtual stuff is awesome, but there's something about being all together and physically seeing somebody do it that just can't always be captured. So a little bit of both, depending on how big of a change, but always reassigning it on our Trainual platform.
Love it. I love it. All right, guys, I have taken up way too much of your time today, but thank you for spending some time sharing what you all know about onboarding and training with the rest of us and making us better.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Hey, if you guys are watching at home, I'm just going to mute these friends here for just a moment. I got something important I want to talk to you about for about 60 seconds or less. Here's the deal. They said it over and over again. Look, this stuff is important, right? You got to get the process down. You got to be willing to revise that process, and you got to put in the energy and the time to do this right, because this will make all the difference in the world for the kind of organization that you build. So super important stuff. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. If you want to do this thing in real life, personal contact, like talking to each other face to face, we're going to do that November 15th through 17th at the Car Wash Show in Las Vegas. We've got some special talent management panels planned for you. We've got some marketing panels planned for you. And then we've got some other fun stuff. We're going to try to give away some big prizes. So stay tuned for that. Hey, and guess what? You know what's coming, friends. When you're out there this week and you're just killing it washing cars, there's just one thing you've got to do, and that is keep it clean.
I'm just having a good day, having a good day.